What's going on? Fabian for Liberty, Fabian Calvo. Check me out, fabianforliberty.com. Remember, a new Fabian Calvo show is every single day. A new one being released shortly, or the Fabian Calvo podcast. And basically, it's 30 minutes a day where I break down, current events, a bunch of other stuff on entrepreneurship. So you can click down below and you can listen, or you can subscribe via iTunes, or you can just listen off fabianforliberty.com. At the end of this week, I'm finally launching my video podcast, which will be an hour long. I'll be having guests and all kinds of good stuff as well. So, over the weekend, of course, there was a lot of headlines regarding Ebola, the Ebola virus. And I talked about it today on the podcast, but I wanted to expand on it because, about 2.5 weeks ago, I did a video about the Obama administration weaponizing illegal aliens and allowing them to basically invade the country. Of course, I was called xenophobic. I was called all kinds of names. Unfortunately, I was, somewhat accurate in that prediction because that's actually, I wasn't really accurate because I actually underplayed it. I was talking about TB. I was talking about, just a bunch of other viruses that I mentioned and diseases like leprosy that I had mentioned that had been, pretty much almost eradicated in the U.S. That were now popping up all over the place, and that many of the people that were infested or that were coming over were actually carrying these viruses and diseases. And don't take my word for it. That's the border guard. Over the weekend, I read a story, one of them saying that he guaranteed that many of them that were sick were being let out into the general population. Now, the question begs, why would they allow this to happen? But first, let me just say that I was actually wrong in that analysis because I thought it was actually much worse than I thought. Breitbart today Breitbart.com revealed a report on, it was a leaked report by the Border Patrol, the Customs and Border Patrol, about how the mass of illegals that is flooding into this country from the southern Mexico border, ladies and gentlemen, from the southern U.S.-Mexico border, is actually much worse than many people thought. In fact, hundreds of people from Africa have been coming in, many that have been carrying or have been coming from countries affected by the Ebola outbreak virus. So you have that whole thing going on. So clearly, I look at this and I say to myself, okay, not only do we have a long, just hundreds of years of history about what happens when borders break down and what it means to the country, to the host country. If that wasn't bad enough in and of itself, and now the fact that they've kind of hid it under this thing of, well, it's for the children. It's the children that are coming over. When then we find out the real picture, it's mostly 14, 15-year-old to adult males that are coming over. Many of them part of MS-13, gangs, all kinds of things. And then the whole part of them that are carrying potential lethal pathogens adds to the just incredible revelation for some, and maybe for me as well, because I honestly don't want to believe this, that our country is aiding and abetting the proliferation, if you will, of deadly pathogens that are now coming over, epidemics and illegal immigrants that are now flooding into this country. Now, it doesn't even end there, though. A sane country would have a sane response to this Ebola outbreak in Western Africa. And I think part of that would be, we're not going to allow flights from those countries to come to America. I'm just saying, call me crazy, but that to me would make sense. Now, in London, just yesterday, there was fears that a woman who was vomiting and bleeding on the airplane had carried the Ebola virus. Now, today, there's a New York man that came from Western Africa that basically is reported to be in Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City in the Upper East Side, basically potentially carrying the Ebola virus. We know that the Obama administration has allowed 2 doctors to come into this country carrying the Ebola virus. Now, thank God, one of them is recovering and is getting better. But one of the things that is being completely underreported is a story that I'm going to link down below. And I talked about this at length on the show today. And let me just be crystal clear here, is that I hope this is wrong. I got to tell you, my gut doesn't think this is going to be the pandemic. But after reading this report from these Canadian doctors that basically did an extensive trial of monkeys and of baby pigs, and they infected the baby pigs with the Zaire strain of the Ebola virus, which is the most lethal one. And basically they put them in the same room with these monkeys, and they had them in cages, so they never came in contact. The point is that at the end of the day, everybody was infected, including the monkeys. Now, they believe one of the reasons this happened is that this Ebola virus could have spread, could have gone airborne, like the SARS virus that is airborne. And if you have a weaponized version of this, which again, ladies and gentlemen, is available in many universities around the country, around the world, that are not even level 4 security clearance facilities, where anyone could break in and steal this stuff. I don't know if this is just complete incompetence from government, which one of the constitutional roles is to actually protect our borders, or if this is almost done by design. Now, let me just venture to say one more thing that a lot of people will think this is crazy. I got to tell you that I watched the presentation by Bill Gates. It's out there on YouTube. If somebody knows what I'm talking about, please post a link. I got to find it, and I don't have the time to do it now before I post this video. Where, I believe it was a TED Talk, actually, where he is openly talking about population control in the country. We know that a lot of people, transhumanists, in fact, the whole transhumanists have a magazine that's out there. I think it's like TH something. And they believe that actually a natural culling of the population is actually good for economic growth and good for society. So they're on record like, hey, we need to basically kill billions of people on the planet. And these are people that genuinely believe this. And unfortunately, those psychopaths are the same psychopaths that actually have a lot of sway over what happens globally, what happens around the world, what happens in the United States and in Europe. And at this point, I want to still hold out and believe that these people are just arrogant and just completely idiotic. But I can't no longer, under just the right conscience and just being, having a room temperature IQ or above, believe that's the case. Because they are now, it's almost, and I didn't want to say this outright or name the video this, but it's honestly what I feel like is the U.S. government is waging biological warfare against the American people. And the American people don't even know it yet. I'm Fabian for Liberty, Fabian Calvo. Thanks for watching this program. Again, listen to the Fabian Calvo show. I expand on this, a bunch of other important topics and news bits that weren't covered as much as they should be over the weekend in the mainstream media. I want to thank you for watching. Thanks for listening. If you're new, please subscribe, leave a comment, share these videos. I'm Fabian Calvo, Fabian for Liberty. I'm out.